Alright, so, a little bit of a weird time of day, I know, but in order to get what I wanted to do done, I knew it wouldn't be a good idea to start as late as we would when we do the collab days on Thursdays, but I had too much to do on a Thursday to make it work the other way around. So here we are. Now, a couple things to get out of the way at the beginning here. As usual, since it's a Lurk-It Day, I am going to tell you all a little bit about where we got this from. In this particular case, we're going to be playing Shields of Loyalty first here today, which was the keys for this were given to me through Lurk-It by Indie.io, who I believe are the publishers involved on this one. Yes, they are the publishers. Now, it's important to note that this game will hit 1.0 in a few days here. August 12th is the slated 1.0 time for this game, so in 5 days this will be hitting 1.0. This has apparently been around for a little while. Good long while based on the release date that I saw there. What this is if you remember, just to use a few examples, some of the Master of Monsters games, that would be a fair enough comparison. Battle for Westnoth would be a fair comparison to a certain degree, as well as a lot of the various general games would be a fair comparison, because I saw some reviews mentioning Fantasy General, which I have seen bits and pieces here and there, but I've never actually interacted with those games myself. That should give you a basic idea of what we're dealing with here. And I make no promises about doing well. We will make do as best we can. We will be playing here for a bit, and then we will be hopping over to the next thing in line. So, if this does not end up being your cup of tea, don't worry. There will be other things that happen today. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and leave off tutorial information because I did sit through all of this information when I was testing this out a little bit ago. I've seen the whole tutorial, at least of the first map. So presumably that's the main bit of tutorial. In this way I don't have to click through a dozen things to get us anywhere. Will I regret that? Maybe.
The island world of Monteria knew magic. But no one had seen such a dark kind of it in generations. Not even at the time when Lord Desmond tried to overthrow King Eldric II, until he was killed in a final major battle. Reports of hordes of the undead and demons that attacked and devastated cities across the kingdom were now spreading as quickly as the last survivors could ride. The last hope were the noblemen, warlords, and magicians whom King Eldric II had exiled when peace returned to Monteria. But the heroes of past wars went into exile and lived in seclusion. Few knew their whereabouts. The royal reporting officers had already been sent in all directions and were to take up the trail to the heroes. In the bag, a letter of the king which reveals an urgent cry for help and a promise of fame and glory.
Alright, so that gives you a basic idea of what we're dealing with here. Dark magic's kind of sprung up as a big problem after they kicked out the majority of the people that could have handled things for them. Because, you know, we're at peace now. We clearly don't need people that are good at war anymore, right? Oh, wait. Protecting yourself might kind of need a decent standing army, but they kind of forgot about that part. So you have your choice between two heroes here at the start. I do believe you'll be getting another hero choice when it hits 1.0. That's at least what I guessed from the bit I read. So you've got Nobleman Anglovan, and you've got Karnoth. Karnoth was the one I tested with, As you can see, they've got more like barbarian style troops and some magic units as well. The interesting thing is I never actually got much of a use for the all-around beat hitting all of the enemies nearby thing. You'll understand why I didn't get to use that probably as we go through the first stage. But I think I'm going to try Anglo-Van here, because the more barbarian type units we had with Karnoth were a little weird. Like, not necessarily the ones you see listed here, there are some actually... There's some actual different units you can purchase immediately upon entering the game, and I purchased a couple of them, and a couple of them I really didn't entirely figure out how to use. These Sylphs in particular are another weird one, because they don't attack. As you can see there, they have no attack, but they have 2 spells they can use, which it took me half the map to realize how to use them properly. They have a Confuse and a Freeze. I'm curious to see what the other items that the human leader here can get. I'm kind of curious about these trackers as well. And as you can see, the drummer, of course, doesn't have attack. He probably has some manner of buff ability, I would assume. But anyway, as a former nobleman and lord of the Darkwood, Anglo-Van enjoyed excellent training in tactics and command of the army. His father died quite early, so he completed his training with his uncle, the commander of the cavalry. Not only skillful with the sword, he's also a gifted rider and strategist. His strengths did not go unnoticed by King Eldric II either. Well, that's an early raid. Welcome in, Kiss Catastrophe. Hopefully you all had a good time with what you were doing. What were you up to today? Welcome everybody to the very beginning of a day. Did you encourage this, Spooky? Much appreciated. And hopefully you're all going to enjoy what we've got on the table here for us today. Right now we're playing Shields of Loyalty, which is going to be a strategy game brought to us by Indie.io. If you are interested in the store page, you can hit !lurkit like you see in the bottom corner of the screen there, and that'll get you the idea. There you are. What were you up to today? Hopefully you had a good time, Kiss Catastrophe. And thank you so much for bringing people over. Hell yeah. But we're all about bringing people to each other here. Now, where was I? Oh yeah. His strengths did not go unnoticed by King Eldric II either, so that he was called up into the royal army as commander of the cavalry. The echo of his successes against the brood of hell can still be heard in the halls of Riftain. Okay. That could be a lot of RPGs based on the length there. Okay, I will keep Kiska in mind. And it's a pleasure to meet you as well. Okay, so we get cavalry boasts from Anglo-Van here. We've got armored riders and mounted scouts, trackers, drummers, and longbowmen. Archers are going to be vitally important in this game based on the little bit of testing I did before this. So we'll see how this ends up playing out for us having them. Absolutely understandable. Do make sure to take care of yourself. And hopefully we will see each other again. Yeah. Basically, our first couple of fights are going to happen over here in the Darkwoods, but you have your little island over here that you can build additional buildings and upgrade your forces that way. It's a little bit like Heroes of Might and Magic-ish here as well. It's going to take multiple battles to construct anything, but you do have 2 open spaces to add 2 additional units right off the top. As you can see, we have our mounted scouts and armored riders in this building up here. The chapel gets us druids, which might be interesting. They are classed as clerics, so I assume they'll have healing. More longbowmen. You can get siege weapons, because, you know, everybody loves a good siege weapon. They have attack range 3, so they might actually be worth grabbing one of. Armored knights down here in the barracks. Tent has your trackers, which are your skirmishers, and then of course the pavilion for the drummers. Considering they're classed as specifically musician class, I'm going to assume that all three of them will more than likely be musician class units here in the pavilion. I feel like I'm gonna want better ranged units, so we'll go ahead and spend the money there. As you can see, we started with 5,000 gold. I'm gonna spend, as you saw, I spent a chunk of it on that, and I'll be... Oh yeah, there's also the Griffin Nest that I almost forgot to point out, because both factions have flyers as well. So you can get Griffins. It looks like Pegasi might be the third thing based on a little bit there, which... If that's what I think that is in the middle, that's going to be a bit weird, because that almost looks like a phoenix with the flaming wing there. So going from a phoenix to a Pegasus seems a little odd. I would have, if anything, figured that the Pegasus would have been first, then go to Griffin, then to Phoenix. But what do I know? The rules in this world may be different than that out of wherever we see any of those normally. Based on the fact we get a benefit to cavalry, it may be worth my while to just grab an additional cavalry unit or two. Though, no. I want at least one other longbowman, because coverage from that will be useful. And you'll understand why I am pointing out coverage with that here in a minute when we get to that. What's the main difference between you? You have one less movement. You hit 20 points harder, you're a lot more durable, you have one less vision as well, and 40 more hit points per unit. I think I'd rather just have another heavy cavalry. The scout will be good for, you know, scouting, but there's only so much scouting information you need at any one time. You can purchase additional units out in the field as well. So, in case you're worried, like, oh no, he's only gonna have 10 in troops, what's he gonna do? Well, if things go wrong, you can actually hire on more guys as the fight goes on. So don't worry about that. It'll be fine. Path to Rifthane. If we want to reach Rifthane before the undead tear down the walls of this proud city, there's no time to lose. Our haste, however, has yet another reason. Too many moons have passed since King Eldric II dismissed us from serving in his army, as seemingly there was no battles to fight anymore. Now it is time to prove to the king we are still ready for combat. Victory conditions. Defeat all the undead on your way to Rifthane. Your avatar must survive. Yeah, if your hero unit dies, it's a problem. So be very careful with them. But not too careful, because they are a powerful unit in their own right. Our heroes arrive at the coast of Darkwood. Get used to the way this screen looks, because we're going to be seeing a lot of this screen. This is our combat map. You'll notice there's a bunch of unit commands, and there'll be some abilities down below as well. Yeah, the Legend of Heroes games can be a lot. I played... I know I played one of the Trails games. Forget which one it was. It was one of the early ones. And I remember enjoying it, but I'm not one for long RPGs, and that obviously is a long RPG. The way up to here was too easy and harmless. The enemy must be right in front of us. Be careful and look out for ambush. Okay, so the dialogue for both of these are the same, so that's interesting. That's fair. We all have our own reasons. Okay, so turn one. That's also fair. It's been too long since I set foot on this island of mine. Feels good to be home again. But a lot has changed. I don't recognize the Darkwood anymore. Dark Brute has turned everything into a hostile environment. You'll notice my cavalry are glowing. That's because of the aura from our commander here, buffing all the... That's also fair. Yeah, it may not be a bad idea to try to turn yourself back away from that a little bit, just so you can enjoy a wider variety of things. But it's also not a bad thing entirely in its own right either. Okay, so yeah, they gain a bunch of defense, looks like a little bit of accuracy, and I'm not sure what that last stat is, but we can have a look at it. Evasion. Okay, the road is giving them the evasion. Okay. Yeah, so they just gain a bunch of defense. Shield wall's important. Basically, shield wall will apply if units with shield wall are together, as you'd expect. Got some defensive fire and offensive fire. That's why I wanted to have a decent amount of ranged units on hand, because if they are adjacent to a unit that's attacking or being attacked, offensive or defensive fire will apply depending on which one you're doing. So that's why that's important. What can you do? Bravery. Increase hit chance and evasion by 20%. I guess that's all they do, is they just walk around banging the drum and trying to make everybody happy. Basically, a war against a usurper was won, and then it appears an undead army, potentially led by said usurper again, has resurfaced right after they kicked out all of the heroes of the previous war and the army. So the heroes of the previous war are now coming back and raising armies to try to undo the damage that's already been done because of that mistake. And that brings us to our situation here, where we're trying to retake the island we came from first and start getting things back under control. And for anyone so inclined, I will pop the store page up for y'all there. Just click that Lurkit link and you'll be sent straight to the Steam page for the game. Which, to bring this up again, even though it's a little early to do so since so many new people have come in, this game will be hitting 1.0 in about 5 days. So if you're interested, it may be a good idea to pick it up now before 1.0 hits, because a lot of games get more expensive when they hit 1.0. I don't know if this one has plans to do so, because it did not say in any of the news posts or anything for it that I saw, so just bear that in mind as a possibility. Now, I could split up and go down both these roads, but I do have some foreknowledge of this map, so I can be a little cheeky in that regard, and we'll actually just take everybody this way. Oh, that's interesting. He doesn't always appear in the same spot. So maybe these maps are randomized a little bit. Sire, you're alive. You're here. A true miracle. Soldier, what happened here? My lord, Desmond's army. They came from the east, tore through everything, burned our homes, butchered us. It'll have that visual effect, and there is a little bit of town building like that, but you aren't capturing towns on the map and actively building them up in the same way. It is much more like a general's game than a Heroes of Might and Magic, but it does have artifact management and such as well, so it's kind of in between the two. You are safe now. Are there more combatants alive? Ruins all around, north, east, everywhere. The Dark Brute, they lurk in the shadows of what's left. And the town in the northeast, it must be reclaimed, quickly, or it's too late. Rest now, soldier. Your fight is over. We will take back what's ours. He's not getting much rest, he's dead. You know, let's not stop that or anything. Let's just watch that happen. So, fascinating thing that happened in testing. And I want to share this because it was interesting. See this patch of water up here? There's a little island here. That guy and his attackers all spawned on that little island for me in the test game. So they were stuck there. Just wanted to share that one because that was something. Oh, I really thought you were going to be able to reach closer because of the road. It's fine. You could just go charging in. Both of you could fight together. But I don't think that'd be a good idea. Let's not overextend ourselves here. These guys aren't super dangerous, but they are quite capable of killing you if you aren't careful. I did have a few losses in the test. Now, you'll notice these trees are definitely hurting our movement, which is part of why I kind of want to be a little more careful than I was with this guy. He'll be okay. He's just not going to have the best day. Let's just bring up as many of our people as we can, because I should be able to push through these woods the next turn. Now, it's important to have these towns, because these towns allow you to add additional units. But you still have your army cap of 10. These are for replacement forces, not additional forces. But you can just summon any unit you have the money to buy. The game advises you that they'll be inexperienced, so, you know, bear in mind they start at 0. So, any combat experience these people gain, which you can see in these gems here, is lost when that unit dies. You can heal them, but you have to be careful about that, because you, one, can't heal next to an enemy, because that was something the tutorial made very clear, and you can't do anything if you're healing that turn. That was the other thing. Like, all of these guys have moved, so there's nothing else we can do here. But you'll notice there are things like hold position, ignore defense, and sniper for these archers. There's a lot of ignore defense moves in this bunch. Ooh, they have Counter-Strike. I should actually then activate Counter-Strike on the heavy cavalry that are sticking out. Because more than likely these guys are going to attack. So let's let them just walk into the meat grinder here. We have no reason to hide. But welcome in, ABC. Interesting. Ah, there you go. Now the reasoning makes sense. Yeah, this armored cavalry is going to get chewed up a bit, but they'll get over it. As you can see by all the individual helmets there, that's how you can tell how much health the individual units within that unit has. We've lost one heavy cavalry out of the whole group here, which does negatively impact their performance, as you might imagine, and a couple of them are almost gone. Thankfully, they took more losses than we did out of that exchange. It took 3 of them focusing this heavy cavalry to get them to that point, and they all took losses as a result. So I'm going to do something that may seem suspect, and I'm going to bring the longbowmen up here. What that'll allow me to do is come crashing into the side of them with a bit of offensive fire added. And that was the plan. If an enemy cannot retreat when they go to low health, they just surrender and are destroyed immediately. I mean, we only have humans, so I can't make waves out of anything else, Spooky.
Offensive fire.
Yeah, you have significantly magnified power if you have archer support with you. So you want to always have fire support where possible. As one would expect, it's basic tactics to always have range support. Let's see, you would kill 4 of them and take no losses, so sure, go for it. There's the other set of enemies over there, but they won't be able to reach too well. You'll also do fine, so go ahead and hit them now. Notice how those numbers that you're given are not accurate. Do not take them as you're guaranteed to get exactly that result, because you are not guaranteed to get that result. We'll go ahead and move you up here to cover the trackers. And you should be able to finish that off, even though you're a little hurt. Clean them up, and then I'll have you heal next turn. Let them earn their healing. And there we go, that's our turn done. We're already making headway. Watch out for these fallen knights. Look at how much defense they have. They have a lot of protection because they are heavily armored knights that also are conveniently undead, so they're really hard to hurt. Undead are, you know, as you'd expect, a little durable. Well, one can say that human tactics improve over time, and then reality steps in and tells you, well, sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. There we go, the shield wall protected them from being in too bad a position there, which is why I moved that cavalry up. Not to mention having the added defense from the nobleman's aura. So let's see. Can't really get the longbowmen into great positions here because you can't really stand on this cliff. So that would put the longbowmen in an awful position. I'll have to move melee up first. So let's move you here, because you can move and then attack even after you unselect them. So you don't have to worry about having everything in play and correctly positioned immediately, which is helpful. You are still going to... Well, then again, you only have 2 heals left. Okay, and we'll lose experience by adding the... Oh, absolutely. Yeah, since they'll be bringing fresh troops in, they won't actually have the same experience as everybody else. Okay. Since it only has 2 charges of healing units, we'll go ahead and do that. Longbowmen still won't reach, though. Wait. Yeah, no, it's saying you can attack them because you go around to attack them. And I don't really want to stick you out into the wind like that. That's not really what you're for. I want to... Because I'm pretty sure I can get that longbowman to stand there, as you might expect, and then be able to do their thing. So let's have you walk over here, and you might be able to get an angle at that archer after they move around a little bit more. Or next turn. But yeah, actually, I can probably do this. I can move you over here, so you keep the aura on these 2, but the archers can move up to provide support fire over here. And that'll do what I want it to do. Do perfectly fine. I don't really want the scouts attacking, but you'll notice double offensive fire counts. That's the fun part, is you can actually stack things like that. Which I learned that by accident, because I don't recall the tutorial specifically stating that. Actually, I might do something cheeky with this mounted group here. Right. It takes exceptional circumstances for heavy mobilization. In that vein. Is thinking about it, you know, the logistics of it would be kind of a nightmare, so... Now we can roll this heavy cavalry up to cover the scouts. Or more likely, free the scouts up to move.
Defensive fire.
Yeah, we are going to have a disadvantage here because they'll have defensive fire, but you'll be fine. We can push them off. And based on the fact that these knights didn't move, I think they're going to stay here in this ruin to protect it, so I don't have to worry about them until I actually end up adjacent to them. I should have shot with the longbowmen first, though, because I think even if their turn's used up, they still provide their additional fire. But I just was a little worried that that wasn't going to work, so I didn't do it at first. Let's have you fog bust over here a little bit for me, actually. Okay, there's nobody going to come creeping up on me over here. I couldn't remember where all of the enemies were, because there were a couple that snuck up on me later on in this fight. So I was doing a bit of checking, because that's what scouts are for, after all. There's a few things you could be thinking of there, because there's a few odd things in the way some of those work that you can easily go and laugh at. Let's see. How do I want to do this? And I don't really need to think that hard about this part here. You go up there and stab the archers. Because, you know, archers can't fight in melee. Because, foolishly, they weren't given knives or anything to protect themselves with. We've also got to watch out for this cultist here, though. You'll notice they are a single unit with a health bar. There are a few unit types like that, even more than just the heroes. Things like those sylphs I showed you in the other army, for example, are single units with a decent health bar. So, this isn't necessarily a hero unit. It's just a more unique unit. You guys can probably just ride around them. Yeah... I mean, I can't say that that's an inherently inaccurate concept. Because there are a lot of of kings and such that fall prey to that mentality. Not that much, but obviously there are cases where people assume everyone's going to fall in line and then suddenly, oh hey, they're not falling in line. Oops. Everything's gone horribly wrong now. But the really unsubtle McBackstabbington family is definitely a concern. Oh, that's right. I remember now. Heal fills the health bars back up. The only way to get the units back is replenish. Right. Simple concept, but brain didn't grab it immediately there. You should be able to just finish that off, and then you can't reach. You can do close fire. You will get hurt a little bit there, but that didn't do as well as it claimed it was going to. Hey Noxy 10, how's it going? Welcome to me showing basic tactics, and that's about it. Debatable on that front. Never claimed to be a tactician. You go ahead and roll up next to the knights there, but hold that thought until after the archers are in place. Ignore defense. Start off by firing. So far, so good, Noxy. How about you? Yeah. It basically is a matter of, you get to keep that crown because we haven't decided to take it away from you. Yeah. To be fair, that situation does change now and then. And just because they agreed to do it doesn't mean they all liked that idea, necessarily. It just was the best idea for them at the time. Glad to hear it's going well, Noxy. And of course, we look out for each other around here. There we go, the voodoo priest ended up getting wiped out immediately. Oh yeah, the fires from lightning, by the way, do matter. They are going to be a problem. They can actually, like, clear sections. I think the fire can spread. I didn't actually see it happen, but I suspect it might. And presumably, since lightning is mentioned here for forces of nature, there might be other forces of nature that come into play on other maps as well. This is going way better than the other group did, but that's not particularly a shock because I just kind of hurled my men forward in the test game because I just wanted to see how things moved and played rather than trying to actually be successful. So we bullied them off their little tile there. I don't know if cavalry can take tiles. Let's find out. Yes, they can. Ruined Solus conquered. This site bent in the wind and seems to have been vacant for some time. Did you hear that rustling back there in the corner? Just a rat? In the ruins of an ancient temple, we found this artifact in 95 gold. Because that's part of the reason why you take these sites, is you'll get money from them, and sometimes you'll get artifacts. In this case, we found the Magician's Doom, which is a necklace we've now equipped. Now you can finish those knights off. I presume that you'll get a defensive benefit. Yeah, you notice there's a massive defensive buff from being in those ruins. Arguably, I wouldn't think cavalry would necessarily benefit from being in there like that, but I guess they could dismount and take advantage of the protection, or, like, run down roads within said ruin. Just keep moving our line up. We are going to have some extra legwork to do to go over here, because there is stuff over there. But keeping our force together will definitely make this a lot easier, because I had split in two as well when I had done the test game. And even with the forces split, they did fine. I just lost a couple of the weaker units because I didn't understand how they worked well enough to protect them immediately. Which way do I want to go right now? Because I could go this way or this way. Or I could spread out and go across, but I don't really want to spread out too much. There's a fun thing that'll happen if you run up to the edge of your vision and get attacked, by the way. The enemies do get free ambushes if you run straight into them like an idiot. Just a little fun fact for you. So don't be surprised if you don't see me running to the edge of my range. Is if you don't go to the edge, you can't get ambushed. There's a lot of things that are treated as no-brainers in this day and age that would be mind-blowing to anyone who hasn't encountered it. So which one are you talking about there? Because there's a few things that could be considered. Oh yeah. That's a good question. It really... I feel like they'd have enough of a time just figuring out dealing with the horses initially at first. Like, obviously, there'd be an adjustment period just understanding, oh, hey, this is a horse. This is what the horse does when I do this. How do I make this useful comes afterwards. But I would assume it would be fairly difficult at first. And then as those first stages go through, figuring out that they can be useful for transportation arguably straightforward compared to taming them in the first place, is it's a big animal that you can fit things on the back of. Kind of makes sense there. Convincing the horse to let you put the thing there, that can be a problem. You go ahead and lead from the front for a moment here. You have movement left. You also have, like, no experience. Oh, I see. Okay. They have made progress, but these are the levels then. It's not like a progress bar. Okay. That makes more sense, actually. So you're not going to see visible results from their experience for a bit. So you have to actually check to see where their numbers are at if you're actually interested in making sure to level your troops up, which probably is going to be important. But this also gives me context of losing 3 experience is not actually that big a deal. Not in the grand scheme of things. Considering this guy fought a little bit and gained 57. But I think he also took out a unit, so he may gain. There may be like extra gains from fully removing a unit. Let's have you peek around from inside the trees. Yep, had a feeling. Because I remembered that there were enemies up toward this corner. I couldn't remember whether they were starting over here or more over here. This is not a great thing for him to have found, but he'll hopefully be fine. Because unfortunately, that's the role of people like him, is to go find the problem. And he did a great job. He found the problem. He just might not survive finding the problem. Let's keep you all interlinked. Let's do... Oh, formation, yeah. Because this game does tout a lot of focus on formations and such. Yeah, these exclamation points show you, hey, you found enemies. You found bad thing. What are you gonna do about it? Yeah, let's just have you defend. I don't really want you to hold position, but defend might save your lives. The whole history of domestication is kind of absurd at points. You're basically on the right point there, yeah. Wolf hangs around for a while, becomes dog in long stretch of time. Horse gets a bunch of stuff piled on it and becomes transport. Cats just continue being cats because they feel like being cats and are useful at being cats. This sure was a choice they made here, moving their archers out into the open like this. It'd be a real shame if something like this happened to them. Wow, claimed you were gonna kill 15, killed 7. You know, that's just like a nobleman, isn't it? I'll handle this. Eh. Immediate disappointment. Our archers aren't going to be able to reach to be helpful here. But we can get the shield wall assembled here with the boost from them. I mean, I'll applaud their unique creativity of making the worst possible decision possible. You're gonna have to stick your nose out if I want to protect the Lord. That is the one advantage they do have, is they did make me jump into a river. I'll give them credit for that, because obviously we take a defense down from being in the river, which is why I put the Lord there, because he can handle that. He'll survive being out in the wind like that, whereas half their archer unit being dead benefits me. You guys probably would be okay if I stuck you out further there, but I'm pretty confident that these knights have nothing holding them back from moving, so they would come marching up as well. But based on the positioning, they'd have to walk through multiple tiles of river to do too much, so we can hit them a little bit and get away with it. Exactly. To be fair, as a chess player who has broken many a much better chess player by making purposeful, idiotic decisions, it can work. But you have to be ready to pay the price for your questionable decision that sets the trap. Speaking of questionable decision that sets the trap, I do have a temptation to trigger the trap. In fact, yeah, they'll be in just as bad a position as I am if I do this. So let's put the heavy cavalry there. That's the unfortunate thing, yeah, is it works. Arguably it shouldn't, but it absolutely works. Yeah, let's stay here so that if they do march up, they'll have to jump in the river to fight me. And that'll be to our benefit. And have you just heal in place. And... I don't really want to have you go over this way at all. So there's an argument to be made for standing here so that whoever jumps in the river can be easily hit, but you can also do the same thing by just chilling there for a moment and just healing.
Shield wall.
And that's why I moved that other heavy up, was to protect the guy who's sticking his nose out. Still lost a lot of them, though. That went way worse than I thought it was going to. Kinda figured shield wall was gonna compensate a bit better there. So that heavy cavalry unit is probably dead. Yep. That was more of a mistake than I thought. Rivers are a lot more effective than I thought they would be, and there's the hidden unit that I was talking about before. They were over there, just further off than I thought. And case in point of why sometimes a bad decision's not actually as bad as it looks, is it walked me right into a death trap. Because I misjudged the fact that there was a hidden unit down here, for one. And for two, I thought these guys weren't going to be able to reach. Because of the river. I thought they would lose enough movement that they wouldn't get there. But they accounted for the fact that they could push him out there using the fallback mechanic to make him walk into his own death. Well, and there's also the simple reasoning of, if your tactics are confusing enough, you can get away with a lot. Now, what do I do as a follow-up in this situation after having made that tragic mistake? This was like, I couldn't really do anything about that because I had no knowledge that this guy was just happening to sit in this one chunk of missing vision here. This was avoidable. This was my fault. So this was also avoidable by more scouting information. These guys are also just too fucking slow. These drummers, they're very slow. Play some drums. Oh! I assumed that the drums were going to be like an AoE effect around himself, not a, hey, I'll just play my drums really loud directly for this guy. It's evasion and accuracy from bravery, right? Yeah. So let's give you the evasion, because I'm about to do something stupid. But I need to punish the positioning they've done here. So what we do is we go here, and we can actually use the rear up attack to our advantage here. So it's not showing it, but he should hit both of these if I'm understanding how rear up attack works.
Defensive fire.
Yeah, no, that is a fair statement. Yeah, this river is actually gonna fuck up everything. Curse you, nature! Foiling me again? It's almost like I should have done that thing I kept saying to do, which was keep your archers in range. And we need to deal with this guy, because he's gonna be a whole issue. You should be able to survive a decent bit now that you're not in the river. But the problem is I can't get him any real support. The best I can do is give him the archers. Which I should have shot their archers first. But yeah, that's what I assumed, is that that wasn't gonna kit. Didn't that say there were 6 of them? I'm gonna give up trying to make sense of some of the numbers that are happening there. I feel like I'm being lied to. I'm probably just not reading carefully enough. But having solved that, he is still in danger from both of these fallen knights, which I don't like. But we can get shield wall back in place here. I just gotta be... The skirmishers I'm not afraid of. There's only 2 of them left. I don't think they're gonna be a problem. These undead spearmen might still be able to get in range. The knights themselves are the biggest concern. But I also need to deal with the knights that are down here. So I think I need this armored rider to help out with this problem. And this armored rider is gonna shield wall with the nobleman. And these guys are gonna creep up here, and hopefully they'll be able to do something with that information. Sometimes the most absurd things just happen to work out. Luck really can be way more of a factor than anyone wants to give it credit for.
Offensive fire. Yeah, actually, if you ride down here, you can still benefit, and then we can hit them, and then they can hit them. Yeah, that's probably the choice. That's what I was afraid of, is I remembered that there was more units with that knight than the knight. Which is why I wanted to just snuff him out quickly, so I had the capability of dealing with his friends. Yeah, so he's broken now. He's not really a concern. Go ahead and get some of those archers. Oh, we actually could buy all of those archers back. Well, that's convenient. You move up to give shield wall to him. I mean, balanced out at that point, right? You know, maybe if I had held position in the river, maybe that... But I think the... No, because they're not even gaining the buff from Anglovan, so I think hold position wouldn't have even have worked in the river. I think the river's just, you are screwed, which makes sense. You are incredibly vulnerable crossing rivers. Which is a very basic tenet I should have remembered. Shield wall. Yeah,
Yeah, they went for the guy they could hurt, but shield wall prevented any real damage from happening.
Wall.
Interesting, they just went down that way. I am reading what you're writing there, by the way, Spooky. I'm just not responding to each individual piece as we go here. But I do acknowledge what you're saying. To be fair, no matter how much of a high you get from winning, it is gonna get real tiresome just trekking across the whole damn known world and then some. Eventually you want to go home. So I can kind of see how that would develop into a problem. Despite the absurd sounding nature of being tired of winning. Oh, I can shoot and then move with the longbowman. I did not expect to be allowed to do that. You are in terrible shape. So we can do a little bit of a shell game here. Pop you out of there. You go down into here and start crushing these guys.
Defensive fire.
Offensive and defensive fire should... Oh, okay. So they didn't get the benefit from these guys, presumably because they moved then. Yeah. Actually, if you look at their stat sheet, it shows no more offensive fire when they moved. Okay. Well, there's only so much you can do about your army revolting out in the middle of, for them, more or less nowhere, because there's only so much resupply they could count on at that point, I'm sure. And there's only so much of a revolt you can put down out there, either. Despite the fumble that I've had here, we're holding just fine. Yeah. You could stick your neck out. You have basically full health. You'll be okay. Yeah, because there's the other special unit they have, the Fire Worshipper, parked in the only other town on the map. Stick with him. You lot stick together. Let's go ahead and hire some units while we're thinking about that. What you do is you click there, you click here. We lost a heavy rider, so let's just go ahead and get a replacement one. Oh, of course! When you're winning like that, it's very easy to go, oh, and just pick more fights. Yeah, because, you know, that makes more sense, right? That makes a lot more sense. Which in some ways it does, in a lot of ways it doesn't. Yeah, we just need to bring these guys up to join the fray here. You guys restock. You guys are gonna have to restock here in a moment as well. And you. Like, all of these guys are just in shambles here. Because this whole front was just a mess. But they'll get through it. Really? Huh. Deal with that in a second. Just have you go straight for him. In fact, you know what? Yeah. Open the city up. I'm not too worried about the regular spearmen. Well, realistically, an overwhelming success over and over again is going to inflate anybody's ego. Town Narholm conquered. Anyone who knew this proud place before will weep seeing it now. We were allowed to fish 128 gold from the bottom of the city's wishing well. Oh, interesting. You can get different results here. Oh, and we also got some more trackers. So I think it said something to the tune of, like, they could spare X amount of gold for us when I grabbed the town with the other faction. Something along those lines. You two are in shambles, so I'm not super worried about you, but you could march on those trackers and ruin them, so I do probably need to do something about you. At the same time, I have to chuck my trackers in the river to do that. But with offensive fire, it should be okay. Except I did that thing again where I moved my archers, forgetting that they lose offensive fire at that point. But it's fine. Those knights basically don't exist anymore. Well, yeah, it's a matter of perspective. To all of those he was pillaging and taking over, I'm sure they don't view him very well. And why would they? There goes that skirmisher bunch. Yeah, exactly. Most of those things are just genuinely a simple matter of perspective. Actually, only gonna kill one of them, huh? That's fine. Hit him anyway. This way they're a bit weaker as well, and we can try to fuck with their ability to move around a little bit. Yeah, if you run to these trees, if the knights do come down with their weakened force, you'll be a little bit safer. Yeah, I already moved you. This got sloppy toward the end because I was just trying to move it along. Because I realized we're like an hour in and I'm still on the first map. That's fine. Shield wall saves the day. I don't... Oh, they must have an ability they used, but they missed completely thanks to the tree evasion. No, you went for the archers. You know what? That's a silly decision on their part, because I think the archers had the best odds of not dying there. It weakens them, don't get me wrong, but they would have been better suited to shooting either of these, I would figure. Even if they have higher defense, there's enough of them dead that they would have been able to push another unit off, probably. What does this even do? I don't get to see what this does. Oh, magic defense. Okay. That makes sense. That's why it's the Magician's Doom, is it is protection against magic. I kind of expected there to be a tooltip on the artifact itself. It's almost like there's one right there on screen, and I've mentioned them as such repeatedly. These are the nearest thing to hero units, is like the generals themselves. Beyond that, you know as much as I do. I've played this map and nothing else. I can't answer your questions beyond that point. The Google machine can help you with certain other more complicated questions. But I would hazard a guess that the generals themselves are probably going to be the only hero units. That would at least be the logical assumption to make, I would figure. Because this does seem to have a much heavier focus on, like, unit tactics and things like that mattering, and if you add hero units into the mix, it can easily trivialize that kind of thing, because the hero units just are so much stronger in a lot of cases. Depends on the game, of course. Some games get around that just fine by making the heroes not as ridiculous. But it is still a variable situation there. This is also not necessarily a genre I would consider myself an expert on, either informationally or by ability, as I'm sure you all can tell by how this has gone. Is while I have a decent head for it, I'm not motivated enough by the nitty-gritty of tactics to sit there and be the sensible, slow-moving general the whole time. Like, you saw how this started. I started off being very careful, and then I got bored, and men got flung into the wind to move things along. I'm sure y'all are used to that behavior from me by this point. Now, the neat thing is, now that we have this town, we could actually spawn units from this town. So I actually should have waited and hired the extra cavalry unit from here. We're also over our unit cap as the extra trackers they gave us. I've played a decent amount of them here and there, but I've never, like, sank into them. This is not really the genre I focus on. Like, the game of this vague type that I spent the most time on probably would be Battle for Wesnoth. Because there was enough interesting things going on with that it could keep my attention longer. Even if that game could be tragically unfair at times. Because of the way the AI in that worked. I mean, that's a very different animal, but still relevant to the conversation. I think we're better served. Well, no, these paths equally suck for moving quickly because there's trees here and a narrow passage here. They both are not great. We may as well go back the way we came because we have knowledge here. I'll just send this guy to make sure there's nobody hanging out up there. I genuinely can't tell you what my first one was anymore because it's long enough ago that I don't remember. And it all kind of just starts to slurry together. Is even when I was young, I played a lot of stuff. So it's just like, oh yeah, I played this and this. I definitely also played that and that. Like, I definitely have defined memories of the original StarCraft. King's Bounty, I did not play that much of that when I was younger because I was awful at it. But I did definitely play it a bit. That was more the forte of most everyone else in the family as far as that game goes. I've come around on it a lot more in recent years. Okay, there's the enemy. Guarding another ruin. Give them the evasion buff, since they're not on the road. Yeah, this way they both have some evasion. And we can shield wall up. In fact, actually... I could stick him out a little bit, but then they'd attack him from the forest with everybody, and that would be messy. Just have you chill on this part of the road next to them. This way, he'll get the shield wall, he'll have the evasion, and hopefully they'll come out of that just fine. I stuck them out a little too far, but that's another case of trying to expedite the passage of time here. Okay, everybody's in motion up this way. At least I didn't send, like, just the tracker all the way up here or anything. That would have been a disgustingly bad idea. So, on the note of Warcraft 3, something in a similar boat that I would love to show off more at some point would be Warlords Battlecry 3. I really do enjoy that. But so far, getting it to work on modern systems has been... The polite word would be crapshooty. Where it works, but half the time it explodes randomly, and it's not really effective. Which is a shame, because I really do enjoy that game. Ooh, where? Oh, useless. Saw a text message pop up, I'm like, did something happen? No, it was just useless garbage. They didn't move, which is interesting. That kind of means I probably can wait and let my forces catch up. And then we can actually do something here. A bit more intelligent. And even if they do move forward, we now have a much more advantageous position. Yeah. It's a RTS series that branched off the Warlords games, which were similar enough to something like Heroes of Might and Magic or Age of Wonders. I believe they're attached. I want to say they're the same company. Brain may be making incorrect connections there because it's been long ago information there. You go ahead and activate Counter-Strike. No, well, you're not attacking this turn anyway, so you may as well hold position. I keep thinking that that'll hurt their attack for the next turn. You go ahead and heal. You can apparently heal and hold position in the same turn, which makes sense. You're just basically bunkering up and bandaging up the people that are hurt. Yeah, specifically the third Warlords Battlecry was the one I ended up playing. And I did play one of the Warlords games. I don't remember which one. So I definitely stuck to Battlecry 3 more. And, like, truth be told, from a realistic angle, I don't even really know exactly why I stuck to that well. I just did. Just one of those things. The game just works for you sometimes. Go ahead and move up there. We're not gonna have offensive fire at all, which is a shame. But we'll get a nice shield wall going on here. Get you in there to protect the ones that are gonna be kind of out toward the edge a little more. We can't pass this mountain, so we're actually in a decent position here. We may as well just pelt this guy since we're not gonna have any other attacks happening in this specific section here. Really, this little band here has, like, no chance, because we are just gonna bring overwhelming force here. I have no idea what you're trying to say, ABC.
Shield wall. Defensive fire.
Good night, ABC, because I'm assuming that's where you're going. That's a fascinating...
Shield wall.
That's a fascinating way for that sentence to have gone wrong, then. Ah, okay. Copy-pasting makes sense for that to have happened, okay. And apparently the heavy cavalry got hit hard enough again, even though they had all that protection. They had 2 different archers worth of defensive fire, and it was still enough for them to die. I should have left them a space to move, though. That is my fault there. I don't think I like the surrender mechanic. It's a little stupid, but it also makes some sense. I feel like if you're surrounded by friendlies, you shouldn't get surrender killed. Because that's a little weird, because you should just be able to shift through the ranks if it comes down to that. Okay, that makes more sense. Yep. Take care, ABC. Meanwhile, I will mourn the the second heavy cavalry that managed to die a stupid death. I really think they would have been fine with the shield wall, the road evasion, and all these archers covering them. But no, apparently them having one archer is enough for one set of knights and one set of spearmen to kill a heavy cavalry. Incredible. Either way, they'll pay for that with their whole force here, so... Really, at the end of the day, we're still going to make this work. I just do feel slightly ripped off. You go ahead and circle around more. Because you don't really need to be in this mix here. You can go harass their archers. If it's done properly, this should all get cleaned up here. Is you go ahead and hit them, which should slaughter the lot of them. The fact that they're alive actually really annoys me. I don't think they'd fit there even if I moved them, but it doesn't hurt necessarily. Well, no, it will hurt to move them, because then the archers don't help them, but they're also not going to help anybody anyway. So you may as well pepper this guy with arrows. Weaken the most dangerous one as much as possible. I don't really know why they don't have offensive fire or defensive fire at all. There must be a mechanic I misunderstood somewhere in here. Which, you know, that's not particularly shocking. There we go. As promised, the whole lot of them are getting slaughtered. Wholesale. See, it's saying that I was gonna get 7 of them and then getting 3 is kind of infuriating a little bit there. But it's fine.
Defensive fire.
Yeah, you'll get defensive fire. That's fine. They're still all dying. You guys just step back. You're not useful at all at this point. They're gonna get another volley of shots in at somebody. Interesting that they shot at somebody who had protection. Yep, there goes the lightning again. Now, I don't know if units get experience from the end of a fight, so I'm gonna go ahead and hire... Oh, no, I can't hire anybody because we have the extra tracker, right? So we would have only been able to keep the 11th unit if I hadn't gotten somebody killed. Oh well. Mistakes happen. Yeah, look at that. It said 10, and then I got 4 of them. Expected results, 9. Let's see how many I actually get. 7. They surrendered because they had nowhere to go. That's why I moved that guy there. And now you go take the building. Ruined Ghostgrave conquered. Many only see loss in ruins, yet we hope to gain something here. Each door begging the same question, is evil behind it? All the hard work finally paid off in a few hidden coins, at least. You found 85 gold.
Victory!
And we won the map! Yay! Now you might be wondering why I didn't build any buildings or anything. That's because in order for me to fit in what I planned to do today, I was only going to play like a map or 2. I had honestly expected to get through 2 maps within the first like hour and a half. That did not end up going according to plan, because these maps are a bit longer than I thought they would be. But this gives you an accurate sample of what you'd be getting with this game. Our swords only became ever sharper during the fight as we were able to grind them on the bones of the undead. But what should we expect in Riftheim, as we already had to defeat so many of these hideous monsters while we were marching towards the city? Happy and relieved at the news that the Dark Menace had been driven from their villages, the last remaining inhabitants gathered their belongings to support your mission. You've received 100 gold. And now you see the campaign map more accurately here, where you get the next space on the map to deal with. There's this whole tornado constantly happening here, which is kind of interesting. And you can, of course, go back to the main map and go adjust your buildings, hire more troops. And our army capacity has increased. So that's good to know. That was something I was curious about, was whether your army capacity would change at any point. Obviously, we're not going to get to find out what any of these unit upgrades are, because they take 4 or 5 battles for any upgrade to happen. We'd be here for an entire stream just doing that. I do wish you could see more about these units, like what their special abilities and such are, before you bought them. Because, like, you can obviously infer some things about these units, but, like, even these drummers that I have in my army, I can't actually do anything with that. Usually, yes. There's no guarantee of that, because sometimes you can end up outpacing the growth of the enemy. Or you end up growing differently than they did, so they may get, like, a new unit before you do, or etc. Depends on how the game's engine is handled for that. With something like this specifically, I'm betting you're right, and that it's paced that way specifically so that when the amount of battles you need to do pass, they will have some new stuff available to them as well, to keep you from getting ahead of them. Oh, and if you want to keep loading round by round to try to change how you did things, it does save every turn. So if you want to save load your way to victory better, you can. I obviously didn't do that here because this already took over an hour to get through. For the sake of showing you guys as much of this game in a reasonable amount of time as possible, that's how we had to do this. But I will mention it one more time just for sake of keeping it clear. This key was provided to me by Indie.io through Lurkit, so obviously I didn't pay for the game myself. These are still my own thoughts on the matter anyway, as I do not let either sponsors or gifters change how I talk about something, and they'll just have to live with the answers there as they get them. But we will be moving on to our next game, which will last us a little while as well. Since we started kind of late, I don't know how long I'll actually be going today. I did debate doing this game for 2 hours, but I think we'd still only get a second map in, and I don't think enough is going to immediately change that I think you guys would get too much else out of that. But the store page, once again, for those who wish to either wishlist it or purchase it, is right there. That's, once again, Shields of Loyalty. And if you're into this kind of game, it's good. I do think that this is well made, and it is a good game of its type. It's not super my thing, as you may have been able to tell by how I've presented it a little bit here. But I can tell that they put a lot of thought into how the mechanics and everything went together. So, credit where it's due there. We will be hopping over to something that's a little bit more my style now. So I do have to note that the game we're switching to is going to be fairly difficult based on my testing of it and the demo we had played of it in the past. So it may still backfire in interesting ways. Oh, and I had intended to do a third game today, which was going to be part of how the length got filled out today.